This airline just got caught in a rumor so insane, people actually believe they sold off 89 planes worth billions after discovering a horrifying secret. But here's the twist. It's not what you think. Today, we're diving into cockpit voice recordings, emergency landings, fuel switch mysteries, and a crash that made headlines worldwide. But before we dive into the crazy theories in cockpit audio, let's start with what actually sparked this wildfire of rumors in the first place. As of mid-2025, American Airlines has a total of 59 Boeing 787 Dreamliners flying in their fleet. These are split into 37 Boeing 787-8s, the smaller version, 22 Boeing 787-9s, the longer, newer version, and that's not all. They've also got 30 more 787-9s on the way, which means their total Dreamliner fleet will grow to 89 aircraft once all the orders are delivered. That makes them one of the biggest 787 operators in the world, especially for the 787-8 model. And here's something even more important. In April 2025, they got 2 brand new 787-9s delivered. These are not secondhand planes. They're fresh from Boeing's factory. American Airlines is expecting 8 more deliveries by the end of this year. So ask yourself, if these planes are so horrifying, like the rumors say, then why would American Airlines be buying more of them? They're not just keeping their existing planes, they're spending millions to add even more. Doesn't really sound like a sell-off, right? If a company truly found out something dangerous or life-threatening about a product, especially one as expensive as a plane, they wouldn't just keep buying more. That would be reckless and illegal. But American Airlines is doing the exact opposite. They're continuing to trust the 787 Dreamliner as a reliable long-haul aircraft. This kind of investment shows that they're confident in the model's future and performance. American Airlines isn't just using the 787 because it's available. They're actually basing their entire future strategy around it. So, what's the plan? It's called the pivot to premium strategy. That means American Airlines is shifting focus toward business class, premium economy, and long-haul luxury travel. Basically, they're trying to attract passengers who are willing to pay more for comfort and experience. And guess which aircraft is perfect for that? Yes, the Boeing 787 Dreamliner. Their newest version, the 787-9P, P for premium, has a brand new interior. It includes 51 flagship business class suites with lie-flat seats, 32 premium economy seats with extra legroom and fancier meals. This new layout gives them way more premium seats than older versions of the plane. And it's perfect for international travel to places like Australia, Europe, and South America. Long flights where people actually pay extra for better seats. Plus, these planes are more fuel efficient and have better environmental performance compared to older jets. That's a big deal because fuel is one of the airline's biggest expenses. And customers care more about eco-friendly travel now. So, where did this whole horrifying secret rumor even come from? The answer lies in a really sad and tragic event that happened on June 12, 2025. The crash of Air India Flight 171. The aircraft involved in the crash was a Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner, which is the same type of plane that American Airlines uses in their fleet. Just seconds after taking off from Ahmedabad, the plane lost power and crashed into a neighborhood, killing all 260 people on board, plus some on the ground. The crash was a total shock, and it was all over the news and social media. At first, everyone was trying to figure out what happened. The early reports said that both engines failed right after takeoff. Now, engine failures do happen in aviation sometimes, but both engines failing at the same time is super rare. That's what made people start speculating. As soon as the media mentioned the type of aircraft, 787 Dreamliner, some people immediately jumped to conclusions. That's when the conspiracy theories started spreading. People began saying, what if the 787 has a hidden problem? Or, is this plane secretly dangerous? Some YouTubers and social media accounts took that idea and ran wild with it. They started claiming that the CEO of American Airlines found out some terrifying truth about the Dreamliner and decided to sell them all to protect the company. But no one actually said that. The CEO never announced anything like that. American Airlines never mentioned ditching their 787s. It was just a big misunderstanding that spiraled out of control. One of the most chilling things to come out after the Air India crash was the cockpit voice recording, also known as the black box. This recording captures everything the pilots were saying in the moments before the crash. And what investigators heard was honestly kind of creepy. Right before the plane lost power, one of the pilots asked the other, "Why did you cut off the fuel?" And the other one replied, "I didn't." That's it. Just those two sentences. But they raised so many questions. Why would a pilot cut off the fuel to both engines right after takeoff? That's something pilots only do after landing, when the flight is safely over. Cutting off fuel mid-air is like turning off a car engine while speeding on the highway. But by then the plane was too low. There just wasn't enough time to regain altitude or speed. Within seconds, it crashed. The pilots probably realized what happened and did their best to save the situation, but they didn't have enough time or altitude to fix it. So naturally, when investigators found out both fuel switches moved to cut off during the Air India crash, it raised a huge red flag. How could this happen? Some experts said maybe the pilot made a mistake, but others didn't think that was likely. There was no emergency happening, no warning lights, and no chaos in the cockpit when it happened. It wasn't the kind of situation where a pilot would be reaching for the switches randomly. That's when another theory came in. Maybe it wasn't human error, but a mechanical or software issue. Some people started asking, could the switches have moved on their own? Could there be a glitch in the electronic control system that sent a false signal? Is it possible the switches were installed with the safety lock disabled? And that's where the 2018 FAA bulletin comes in. Back then, the FAA sent out a warning called a Special Airworthiness Information Bulletin, SAIB, that in some 737 aircraft, these fuel switches were found with the locking feature not working. This wasn't considered dangerous enough to force an airworthiness directive, which is a legal fix. So airlines were only advised to inspect them, not required. But guess what? The same switch design is used in the 787 too. Now let's be real for a second. The biggest problem American Airlines has faced with the Boeing 787 isn't some horrifying secret. It's plain old delays. And not even delays caused by American Airlines itself, but delays on Boeing's side. The truth is, Boeing has been having a pretty rough few years. They've struggled with a bunch of production issues, some major quality control problems, and even some supplier-related fraud. Because of these problems, Boeing has not been able to deliver 787s to airlines like they promised. American Airlines has been waiting on a bunch of new Dreamliners to show up so they can launch or expand certain international routes. But when the planes didn't arrive on time, American Airlines had to make some tough choices. In early 2025, they suspended 3 European routes. Not because the Dreamliner is unsafe or cursed, but simply because they didn't have enough planes to fly those routes. It's like planning a road trip with 5 friends, but realizing you only have a 3-seater car. You're not canceling the trip because the car is haunted, you just don't have the space. Later in the year, the airline paused 6 more transatlantic routes, but that time it was for a different reason. The company said it was because of seasonal demand, meaning fewer people were flying during the winter months, especially on those routes. Again, not because the aircraft was unsafe, but because it just didn't make sense to keep flying half-empty planes across the ocean. So all this stuff about American Airlines cutting flights or changing routes has a very normal explanation. Logistics, demand, and supply chain mess-ups. Unfortunately, when people on social media saw these changes, they jumped to conclusions. They started saying, "See, They're scared of the 787, when that wasn't true at all. Another thing worth noting is that delays and route changes are totally normal in aviation. Planes are expensive and airlines run super tight schedules. If even one delivery gets pushed back, it can mess up an entire season's flight plan. That's exactly what happened here. Let's talk about a few small things that got blown way out of proportion online. Like, ridiculously exaggerated. You've probably heard that American Airlines had some suspicious incidents with their Boeing 787s.
And yes, there were a couple of minor issues, but nothing crazy or dangerous.
One example people keep bringing up is when a 787-9 had to divert to Rome instead of Naples. The reason? Naples Airport isn't built to handle the larger 787-9. That's it. It was a planning mistake. Someone at dispatch probably booked a plane that was too big for the airport's setup. When the pilots realized they couldn't land safely in Naples, they just went to the nearest suitable airport, which was Rome. That's what pilots are trained to do. It wasn't a crash, it wasn't a fire, it wasn't anything dramatic. But social media made it sound like the plane barely made it down in one piece. Then there's another story about a 787 that diverted 4 times in 25 days. Sounds bad, right? But if you actually look into it, the reasons were all unrelated and minor. Sometimes it was due to bad weather, sometimes a minor technical check, and other times because of crew rest rules. Stuff like this happens all the time in aviation. Airlines deal with unpredictable stuff every single day. It doesn't mean the plane is cursed or unsafe. It just means the airline is being careful and following safety procedures. But most people don't know how airline operations work. So when they see headlines like "Dreamliner diverts again," they assume something is really wrong. YouTubers and Twitter accounts run with these stories and turn them into clickbait. They edit scary music into videos and throw in a few creepy photos. And suddenly people think the 787 is falling apart in the sky, when in reality, nothing actually happened. Aviation experts and pilots have said over and over that these kinds of diversions are routine. They're not proof of a horrifying secret. If anything, they're proof that the safety systems are working. Pilots are trained to play it safe. If they need to change the plan mid-flight, they do it. That's a good thing, not a red flag. And if you want to know why people were so quick to believe that the 787 was dangerous, you have to look at Boeing's bad track record in recent years. Honestly, Boeing has had a lot of problems, and not small ones either.
The most infamous case was the 737 MAX crashes. 2 of these planes crashed just months apart, one in Indonesia in 2018 and one in Ethiopia in 2019. A total of 346 people died. Investigation showed that a software issue called MCAS was the main cause. What made it worse was that Boeing knew there were issues, but didn't tell airlines or pilots. That's a huge deal. It made a lot of people lose trust in Boeing. After those crashes, the entire 737 MAX fleet was grounded worldwide for 21 months. That's almost 2 years. Internal emails came out showing that some Boeing employees even joked about the plane being designed by clowns. It was a PR disaster, and honestly, it deserved all the criticism it got. But Boeing's problems didn't end there. The 787 Dreamliner itself has also had a bumpy history. In 2013, the plane was grounded because of battery fires. The lithium-ion batteries used in early versions overheated and even caught fire on some planes. The FAA grounded the whole fleet until Boeing fixed the problem. Then, from 2019 to 2022, more issues showed up. This time with production quality. Boeing found tiny gaps in the fuselage of multiple 787s. These might not sound serious, but over time, they could lead to structural problems. Boeing had to pause deliveries for nearly 2 years while they fixed everything. And in 2025, things got even worse. Investigators discovered that a supplier had faked safety certification documents for thousands of Dreamliner parts. That's not just bad, that's illegal. It created another storm of doubt around the plane and the company. In the past few years, several Boeing employees have come forward to say some really scary stuff about what's going on behind the scenes. One name that stood out is Sam Salahpour, a Boeing engineer. He claimed that the fuselage, which is the main body of the plane, on the Boeing 787 wasn't being put together properly. He said the joints and connections were misaligned, and over time, this could lead to structural failure. Basically, the plane could break apart mid-air if the stress built up. That's a terrifying thought. And if you learned something new,
Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and don't forget to share this with your friends who love a good aviation mystery.